Hey everybody, I'd like to introduce you first to our new friend, baby Claire. So my wife and I had a baby. My wife Julie and I had a baby a couple months ago. So my wife is busy right now, and so I'm going to be watching the baby. So the baby's going to be on YouTube with us. Yeah. So her job is to make this more entertaining of a video than it might otherwise be. My job is to tell you about a new transition for STEM coding. The short version of this video is that we need your help to make this transition to launch a nonprofit. And I'm going to give you some of the background and some of what we're going for here. But we hope that you will donate to help us make this transition. And I'm going to tell you why we need your help, what we're going to use the money for. And then we'll talk about how baby Claire fits into all this, right? Okay. Um, so the STEM coding project started in 2017. So Rochelle Teeling-Smith and I, so Rochelle is the red-haired woman in the other video that you might have seen about this transition that we're making. She and I won 2 grants in 2017. So I teach at Ohio State University. She teaches at the University of Mount Union. And we got a grant from OSU in 2017 and the American Institute of Physics in 2017 to launch what would become the STEM coding project. So within a few months of getting those funds, we launched the YouTube channel. We started training more teachers, things like that. And we kind of grew and grew from there. Um, Things changed in 2020 for all of us with COVID and things like that. One of the things that COVID did was to create this demand for, you're going to be cute? You going to do anything cute? Yeah? Was to create this demand for, distance and hybrid learning activities. It's funny how your little yellow onesie is kind of semi-transparent with the thing. Yeah. Okay. It's a nice yawn. So, in 2020, all of us instructors, myself included, had to pivot towards distance and hybrid instruction. And so it was a very different year for the STEM coding project because the teachers that we had trained in the past, sometimes we would train them and they say, okay, this is interesting stuff, I'll see if I can squeeze it in. But then they get busy and, just being a teacher is not an easy thing to do, and squeezing in new stuff is not an easy thing to do. And it wasn't uncommon for people to say, well, I can't really squeeze it in this year. But this year was different, and the teachers that we had trained in 2019, 2020 really stuck with them, the things that we developed, and we really upped our game in a lot of ways to help those teachers. And so 2020 was a big year of growth for us. And the other thing that made 2020 significant is that the learning management system that we've been using, which if you look on this channel, you'll find videos about stemcoding.osu.edu. So that learning management system, in the middle of 2020, we were told that we shouldn't continue to let teachers high school teachers use that resource, middle school teachers use that resource for free like we've been doing. So we were told that in 2020. Uh-oh. 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 Okay, buddy. Can we go over here? We were told in that we just couldn't use that site like we used to. And it was for a variety of reasons. There was basically that there was paperwork that needed to be done, and various understandable reasons why that decision was made. And so what we did in August 2020, with permission from Ohio State University, we set up a mirror site. We set up a mirror site called STEM Coding. Hey, buddy, you okay? You okay? You want to be over here again? Maybe you want to stand. You like standing? Let's do that. Want to stand? She likes to stand. There we go. So in August 2020, we set up this site, which is like stemcoding.osu.edu, but you'll notice there's no OSU branding of it. This is an independent site. that is set up on that's run by our nonprofit. So we already have a nonprofit. The problem is that it's not tax exempt yet. And so we set up this site so that teachers can continue to use our activities. And in fact, this site has even more coding activities than we've had time to make videos for on the YouTube channel. And so you're going to be hearing a lot more about this site as time goes on our YouTube channel. This is what we did, August 2020. Currently, there's about 600 students using this site, and maybe 10 or 12 teachers, I can't remember exactly. But this is a big thing for us, and it's nice because it allows teachers to kind of manage a classroom, keep track of the different submissions and assignments and things like that. Yeah, you got to manage the thing, right? So not only do you have to learn how to code, you also have to figure out how to put it in your classroom and manage the classroom, right, buddy? All right. So the transition now is that we need to become a tax-exempt nonprofit, and there's a couple reasons why we want to do that. So you could say that in 2020 we outgrew the university outreach model, and so what we're trying to do is set up an independent entity that is connected to but independent from Ohio State University and the University of Mount Union. So let me tell you about why that's an important thing, for why we want to do that and why we want to do it in that way. The main reason that we want to do that is that we don't want to go the for-profit route. So we don't want to start a company. We don't want to get investors. We don't want to we don't want to go the for-profit route, which is a profit maximizing route, which sort of looks at our teachers and says, okay, how much value can we get out of those teachers? How much would they be willing to pay for the kind of features that this site offers, and how can we maximize that? So we don't want to go that route. Another part of the for-profit route is that, potentially that route is one in which you eventually, hey buddy, you eventually might want to get bought out by a larger company. Maybe it's a textbook company like Cengage or something like that, or we might want to get bought out by Code High School, which is comparable to what we're doing in some ways. And we'll just cash out and we'll say, like, here's the source code, go for it. Here's the user base, go do what you can do, and they'll send us a big fat check, and then we'll just sort of be out. We don't want to go that route. And we've never really thought that was the direction that this was all heading. And so the best way to avoid that route is to go the nonprofit route. A nonprofit cannot be sold. There's no way for the founders of a nonprofit to cash out like that. And so in going the nonprofit route, we're sending a message to everybody who's enjoyed our stuff, saying, we're going to continue to be here. We're not going to sort of, sell out to whatever. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to make things available at cost. And so the idea here is that this site, for example, has some features that are similar to sites like Code High School, similar to, say, Trinket.io. I love Trinket.io. Trinket.io is a great site. It does all kinds of amazing things. But if you're trying to manage a classroom, if you're a teacher trying to manage a classroom, it's very expensive. The free version is fantastic, but from the teacher's point of view, keeping track of students is very expensive. We don't want to do that with this. The plan for this site is that we are going to charge, and we are charging teachers $20 a year to use this site, which manages their classrooms, and that's it. And they can enroll as many students as they want. With that, we're not going to charge the students anything. We're not going to charge the students per head or anything like that. But we're going to charge the teachers $20 per year. And we think that would be enough to basically meet our expenses as a nonprofit if we just sort of keep it at that number. Now, if you have a student teacher, if there's someone else who's helping with the management of the class or the grading of the class, things like that, we're also going to need to charge $20 a month for that person because it's a teacher account. But again, we're not planning to charge for the student's account because that would be a huge headache. And again, we're not trying to have a profit maximizing model. We think that we can break even by doing this. But we can only do that, we can only achieve this, I think that we can be sustainable, but we need to be able to sort of launch things to get to that point. Are grants that educational nonprofits can apply for that universities cannot. Now, technically, universities are nonprofit organizations in most states, but there are a lot of foundation grants that are specifically said are not for universities, and so having a nonprofit will allow us to compete for those. We'll be looking at those grants, but we haven't been able to apply to them yet because we don't have a tax-exempt nonprofit. So that's another big reason. And then just another reason is that there's all kinds of university restrictions that we've had to deal with. So, for example, we used to be able to give Amazon gift cards to teachers who would help with. Hey, Claire. Teachers who would help with running our workshops, either virtual and in person, and we were told that we can't do that anymore because there's like auditing and those sorts of things. So if we have a nonprofit, then basically we set the rules within the limits of state and U.S. government, and we can do those sorts of things. It gives us a lot of flexibility that we didn't previously have. So it makes us eligible for more grants, and it gives us flexibility. But here's the thing: is that when you're writing grants, it's a very weird line item in a grant to say, hey, we need to obtain tax exempt status for our nonprofit, so we need to put these extra funds into there. That's a very strange thing to ask a foundation to pay for, and so that's why we're asking you all who appreciate what we do. We need your help to raise these funds, because if we can just get through this first year, we should be self-sustaining. So the funds that we're asking for, we're not setting up an email, we're not collecting your email to send you a bunch of emails over and over again, year after year. We're really just trying to do this a one-time thing. And let me tell you about sort of what we're going to spend these funds on, and what we need these funds for. Okay. So the first line item here is the IRS 501c3 tax-exempt application fee. So to become tax-exempt, which again is going to help us to have, just provide everything at cost, basically. So for example, like the site that you're seeing there, I am the webmaster for that. So we're not trying to raise funds to pay somebody to be the web administrator for the site. I figured out how to do it. It took me many, many hours to do it. But I got it, and it works okay. But to obtain tax-exempt status, the IRS will not do anything for you unless you have $600 to apply. So that's just off the top, $600 is what you have to raise. The next thing, so the $600 is the application fee. A lot of people would add to this, and they would say, okay, well, you should add another $1,000 or $2,000 to pay a lawyer to look at your IRS tax-exempt nonprofit application fee, and to make sure that it's on the up and up, and make sure that it's likely to get approved. I've not put that expense here. I think that we're going to do it without that, and we might be able to find a lawyer who'll be able to give us some advice for free, pro bono. So this list is sort of a very minimal list of what we're trying to do. Now, once you've applied for the nonprofit, you also need nonprofit insurance. And so 1 year of nonprofit insurance is somewhere in the neighborhood of $500, $600, so I sort of chose a number in that range. And then our server costs, our servers to run this site cost about $20 a month, which is not that much, but over a year, that's $240. And so that's another expense. If you add these up, you get $1,400. Which is what we're asking for. Now, what's the big picture here? Why is this important? Well, that's where little Claire comes in, right, Claire? So by the time that Claire goes through school, we want to make sure that computer science and computational thinking and data science are thoughtfully integrated. Right now they're not. That's why she's crying. Right now, data science and computer science and computational thinking are viewed as separate because the tech companies that are paying for it see it as a separate thing, and they're reacting to the lack of computer science, the lack of data science, and they're sort of going off and doing their own thing and largely ignoring all the groundwork that's there. We want to do the opposite. We want to create activities that align with as many standards as we can: math standards, science standards, computer science standards. Mom is smiling on the other side of the camera here. So we want to thoughtfully integrate computer science into basically everything. You can put data science in a history class. You can put data science in a sociology class, social studies class. We're all for it. But we don't see a ton of people thoughtfully integrating these things. Instead, we see these sort of curriculum wars where the tech companies think they know what's good for the classroom, largely ignoring the math and science standards. Meanwhile, the legislatures don't really care what's in the classroom. They'll say, okay, there's a computer science class, let that count for math, let it count for science, let it count for foreign language. So there's just a lot of thoughtlessness when it comes to integrating computer science into the classroom. And we have been a leader, we think, in creating thoughtful activities that aren't, aligning with the different standards just, in this arbitrary way, like in a sort of like reading a list. Instead, we want to make activities that naturally align with the standards. That's not, tail wagging dog. It's not cart leading horse. It's things that thoughtfully express these various ideas, because it's all connected, right? And it's not that hard to think of things that do hit all these standards, because it's all connected. The problem is that people are not seeing it as connected. They're seeing it as separate, and we're really trying to do everything we can to connect the dots. And so we would really appreciate your support in making this transition. We think that it will help us to better serve teachers, better serve students, and it will help us to make more fun content, and this is just sort of the future of where we're heading. So we'd really appreciate your support. Claire would really appreciate your support, right, Claire? Do something cute. Close enough. So we really appreciate your support. Again, we have to make sure that Claire, when she goes through school, that this is all sorted out, right? So the clock is ticking. And so help us to do what we can to transform education as best as we can. So thanks for your attention. Thanks for your support. We'll have a video later to shout out to our donors, and we'll try to send people stickers, things like that. Donorbox.org/STEM cutting. You can find that link in the bottom of the page here. So, all right, signing off. Thanks, everybody.